Oh, hey, my name is Josiah. Welcome to Retro Rewind. And today, I don't know when I'm gonna play. You know, there's just so many different kinds of games on my shelf, and I only have a few episodes this season, so I really don't know what I'm gonna play. Well, there's one thing I could do. Well, we might as well start with the one that struck my interest in gaming. Let's get this over with. Alright, let's start with a little bit of history. Super Mario Bros. Released on September 13th, 1985 in Japan, however an exact date in North America is not known. You'd think that the date for the literal best retro game ever would have a known release date, but no! When Super Mario Bros. Was released, it was a phenomenal success. It was bundled in with nearly every NES set released and set the standard for video games moving forward. Well, that's cool and all, but then again, what are my personal thoughts on the game? Well, I might get stoned for saying this, but it's just okay. Okay, I get it. Dad, put the gun down now. Now, I like SMB1, but compared to other games like SMB3, World, heck, even 64, the first Mario game looks a little lackluster. But then again, that's to be expected from a first game in a franchise. Heck, Miyamoto, the creator of Mario, said that the first Mario game was supposed to be the last game Nintendo would have ever made. Well, we might as well talk about the pros and cons of this game while we're at it. Pro, it's an incredible side-scroller with incredible levels. Con, it's limited to the NES hardware and the levels are kinda short. Pro, you can spend hours upon hours playing and never get bored. Con, some of the levels are stupid, difficult, and are sometimes hard to get through. While we're still on cons, let's talk about my least favorite part. You can't go back. In almost every side-scroller you can go back, in case you forgot an item or something like that. But Nintendo pulled a full 180 on us and said, nope! How hard would it have been to make Mario go back? Well, even though it's not perfect, Super Mario Bros. 1 is probably one of my favorite games on the NES. Even with all of its flaws and not being able to go back, and it's alright for me, so I think this is a game that I'm going to cherish for a very long time. At least until its replacement comes. I have it! Oh, hey, I'm Josiah, welcome back to Retro Rewind, and today, I'm playing the Wii U. But, I just wish I could be playing something good. Oh boy, my favorite game ever! Let's just get this over with. Okay, let's start with a bit of history. The Legend of Zelda is one of the most famous video game franchises of all time, branching off with its abundance of games, merchandise, and especially fans. The series started on the Famicom Disk System over in Japan and was the brainchild of Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Super Mario. He remembered the days when he was a child exploring in the forest and how much fun he had when doing it. Then he thought to himself, how can this be translated into a video game? And thus he created The Legend of Zelda, creating a whole franchise with it as well. Now let's talk about Ocarina. Revealed at the Nintendo Space World event in 1995, Ocarina of Time was looking to be one of the greatest games of all time. It was easily the most anticipated game ever, being hyped up in magazines like Nintendo Power, commercials on TV showing it off, and kids talking at the lunch table about how they got the game early. Now let's talk about the game itself and what made it so special. First of all, it defined a generation, which isn't something you can say about every game. Sure, some games like Mario 64, Metroid, Pokemon, and Kid Icarus were good games, but Zelda takes the cake for most influential. Either way, let's talk about my favorite parts about this game. First of all, it immerses you into a world that kind of feels real. You have a certain connection with these characters and something I can only explain as, well, a relationship with the game. Oh, and the boss battles. You can't talk about Zelda without talking about the boss battles. They all have that certain amount of tension that give you that feeling of just one more time. It's really addictive. However, with all these pros, there's bound to be some cons. One major thing is you can't pick it up, forget about it, and pick it back up a month later and forget everything. You have to stay consistent with it. Play a bit today, a bit tomorrow. It's a schedule on the game's time. Other than that, it's probably the biggest contender for my favorite game of all time. So The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is definitely my favorite Zelda game out of any other Zelda game in existence, and probably my favorite game overall. But what game am I going to talk about next? Well, tune in next episode where I talk about Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Genesis. And as always, stay safe, stay warm, stay watching, and stay retro. See you guys later. Oh, hey, I'm Josiah, welcome back to Retro Rewind, and today I'm playing one of my favorite N64 games of all time, Super Mario 64. It's one of my favorite Mario games of all time, but I'm kind of getting sick of Nintendo, if I'm honest. I just need something to boost my interest. Oh boy, not Mario! Let's just get this over with. Man, I hate that hedgehog. Alright, let's start with a bit of history. It was 1990 and Sega was dying. They needed something to combat Nintendo's Mario. They tried a previous mascot being Alex Kidd, yet that flopped. Who could have guessed a mascot named Alex Kidd would be the absolute worst thing to happen to Sega in a while? Not me. So Sega thought of something that would keep them alive for years and years to come. Sonic the Hedgehog. Let's talk about the game itself now for a second. One of my favorite things about the game is Green Hill Zone. Green Hill Zone is definitely one of the most recognizable Sonic levels ever. It has its own type of challenge without being ever too hard. I feel for a first level to be considered great, it has to be a tutorial for the player to get the hang of the game, yet not being a tutorial at the same time. Another thing to look at are the boss battles. They can be simple at their simplest, yet hard at their hardest. Now let's talk about the parts of Sonic 1. First of all, I wish that they would have come up with all the ideas like the spin dash while making Sonic 1 instead of Sonic 2. Secondly, most of these levels are just so super short. The average time a person can beat it is well under a minute. It makes it seem like the game doesn't have much to it. However, if you're looking for a short game to enjoy for a bit, Sonic 1 is an incredible game that I would recommend to any 90s video game fan. Well, Sonic the Hedgehog is definitely not the worst Sonic game, but it's also definitely not the best. It's also definitely not the best video game overall. That title definitely goes to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Maybe Mario Galaxy 2. Well, that's all we got for you guys today. Stay safe, stay warm, stay watching, and stay retro. We'll see you guys later. Oh, hey, I'm Josiah, welcome back to Retro Rewind, and today I'm playing one of my favorite NES games of all time, Super Mario Bros. 3. It is one of my favorite Mario games, and especially one of my favorite NES games of all time. But it's not my favorite NES game of all time. There's one other game that could possibly take that spot. Right when I need it. Let's get this over with. Alright, let's do things a little bit different. I'm gonna be honest, it's hard to be in my best games of all time list, but Contra easily makes that list. And why wouldn't it? It's overall just a great game. Some of the things that I like about the game are the weapons. The weapons are just so iconic and known all over the gaming community. Items like the machine gun, fireball, and laser are all great, but they all become worthless when the spread gun appears. Another thing I like about the game are the boss battles. The boss battles are the greatest things to come out of these games. I can't tell you how many times I got stuck on the level 3 boss. Hey, you can't blame me, I was 7! 7! Now, everybody loves Contra. But the main reason people love it was because of one thing. the Konami code. Okay, I get it. It's holy. Stop pushing it. Now, if you don't know what the Konami code is...
What's wrong with you?
No. The Konami code was a code for Contra, which brought your life counter from 3 all the way up to 30 lives. Right before the game starts, you put in an up, up, down, down, left, right, BA start on the controller, and you would finally have 30 lives.
So we've already established that Contra is one of the greatest games on the NES, if not the greatest. But I wouldn't call it the greatest. See, there's one other game that could surpass all of this, one other game that could beat everything, and oh my goodness, here we go again. Hello everybody, welcome back to Retro Rewind. I'm Josiah, and today we're going to talk about one of the most underrated NES gems, Cobra Triumph, Super Mario Bros. 3. What? That's weird. Let's get this over with.
In the late 80s, Mario was undoubtedly the king of the gaming world, and with the soon release of Super Mario Bros. 3, Nintendo aimed to push the limits of what the NES could do. They went above and beyond, creating a game that not only met, but exceeded the high expectations set up by past games. One of the most exciting things about the game was the introduction of new power-ups. The Super Leaf and the Tanuki suit gave Mario and Luigi the ability to fly and attack enemies with their tails. This power-up was later used in New Super Mario Bros. 2 on the Nintendo 3DS. Exploring the world map often led to discovering secret items, minigames, and warp whistles. These warp whistles would take you to different worlds across the game to get to the final world even faster. Super Mario Bros. 3 also introduced the game's main antagonists, the Koopalings. They would each be guarding one of the worlds and provide unique boss battles. Much like previous games, Mario 3 had become a cultural icon. It was not just a game, it was an event. The excitement around its release could not be underestimated, and it solidified Mario's status as a gaming icon. The game sold 17 million copies on the NES, branched off into an animated series, and was also featured in the 1989 movie The Wizard starring Fred Savage.
Super Mario Bros. 3 remains to be one of the greatest games on the NES for multiple reasons. It's just a great game overall, if I really wanted to say one thing. But past that, I don't think there's another game on the NES that's really better than this. Well, maybe one. Possibly more. No. Well, thank you guys for watching. Stay safe, stay warm, stay watching, and stay retro. We'll catch you guys on the next level. Hey everybody, welcome back to Retro Rewind, and today I just got something in the mail. Where'd I put it? No. Oh. StarFox. Let's get this over with.
If I want to be completely honest, I love StarFox, and for good reason. The levels are fun, the graphics for their time are incredible, and it includes some of the coolest things to come out of the Super Nintendo. Before we get any deeper, I want to talk about the graphics. Because the SNES was only a 16-bit system, it really couldn't display 3D graphics all too well. So, Nintendo created a chip for the system called the SuperFX chip, which could render near 32-bit graphics. Other games like Stunt Race FX, Yoshi's Island, and the SNES version of Doom all use the chip, equally making the most of it. It's still amazing even today how a game like StarFox could run on this system, but that's another thing. The name. You see, in other countries like Europe, they couldn't call StarFox StarFox, due to a German company named StarFox.
Yeah, you see how that could be confusing? Neither do I.
So, because of this, they had to change the name to Starwing in basically everywhere that wasn't North America. The same thing happened with Star Fox 64, where they called the game the Lilac Wars. Honestly, I don't hate the name. Sure, StarFox to me seems more iconic, but the Lilac Wars just sounds a lot cooler. Now, let's talk about the gameplay itself for a second. One of the first games I noticed with the game was during the first level where the game is running nice and smooth and out of absolutely nowhere, the boss comes on the screen and the frame rate drops drastically and it goes from like 60 to 14 in a second, like what the heck? Now, past the inconsistent frame rate, the game is really fun, changing gameplay styles level after level. Level 1 has a really cool behind the ship shot, which has become standard in quote-unquote space games today. And level 2 has a cockpit view, which for some reason really makes me think of the dogfight scenes from Star Wars A New Hope. I really love this game, and obviously a lot of other people did too. That's why Nintendo is making a sequel to Star Fox, appropriately titled Star Fox 2. The game was actually released in 1996, which coincidentally was the same year that the N64 released, and also the same year that the Virtual Boy was discontinued.
So, when we whine about the Virtual Boy getting canceled, it's you who's to blame!
So, they decided to cancel a nearly fully finished game and release the new game on the N64 to take its place. Thanks, Nintendo! For the longest time, the game was lost, some prototypes being leaked online, yet they were very unfinished. However, when the Nintendo Giga Leak happened, the beta files for Star Fox 2 were also found deep within Nintendo's files. Now, of course, the game was officially released by Nintendo when the SNES Classic Edition was released as an unlockable by beating the first level in Star Fox, and then also released on the Nintendo Switch Online in December of 2019. But it was also really cool to see that all these beta versions these years later, especially when we know that Nintendo would rather die before giving us these files.
So Star Fox is really one of the coolest games on the NES. With its graphics, gameplay, and impact on the SNES community, it's no wonder that this game is revered as one of the SNES all-time greats. Well, that's all we got for today. Stay safe, stay warm, stay watching, and stay retro. We'll catch you guys on the next level. Oh! Hey, I'm Josiah, welcome back to Retro Rewind. Today, I've been preparing for a fight. You might be wondering what I'm doing to prepare for this fight. Right now, I've been punching a bag and playing a lot of Street Fighter 2. Guess which one I'm doing right now? Neither, I'm forfeiting. Let's get this over with.
Street Fighter 2 is one of the most influential games of all time and holds a special place in gaming history. The SNES version is a really cherished gem in the hearts of many, and it's really evident why that's the case. Released in 1992, it marked a turning point for console gaming. Capcom, the genius creators behind it, managed to bring the arcade experience into our living rooms. Now, if you didn't already know, Street Fighter 2 is a sequel to Street Fighter.
Shocking, I know.
The original Street Fighter, honestly, didn't make that big of an impact on the gaming community. But Street Fighter 2, it was an immediate success. Capcom definitely struck gold with this one. Street Fighter 2 introduces some of the most colorful cast of characters, each with their own unique fighting styles and stories. And how can we forget about Doslim's stretchy limbs? That's some serious yoga dedication right there. This game was an inspiration for future fighting games, showing the world that a diverse roster and varied gameplay styles were the keys to success. As I mentioned earlier, the SNES version of the game was a game changer. It brought the arcade experience home and was nothing short of miraculous. Sure, it couldn't replicate every detail, but it captured the essence perfectly. The controls, the graphics, the sound, everything just felt right. It was as if Capcom had bottled the arcade magic and handed it to us in cartridge form. Of course, the SNES version did have its quirks, like the slowdown in certain areas, which made the game much slower than the arcade original. But it didn't matter, we had Street Fighter 2 at our fingertips whenever we wanted, and that was a game changer.
Well, Street Fighter 2 is definitely one of the biggest games that took the world by storm in the late 90s. But there are definitely other more violent games. Not today. Anyways, that's all the time that we have today on Retro Rewind. Stay safe, stay warm, stay watching, and stay retro. We'll catch you guys on the next level.
Oh, hey, I'm Josiah, welcome back to Retro Rewind, and today I'm playing the original Super Mario Bros. 2 on the NES. That's not usually supposed to happen, and it's kind of causing a few problems. Sigh. If only there were a way that I could play this on the SNES. Oh boy, another way to waste my money! Let's get this over with. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I have, to say the least, mixed feelings about Super Mario All-Stars. There's so many good things about the game that definitely warrant buying it. However, there are definitely some bad things about the game that just rub my back the wrong way.
Ew, get off me!
So, let's take a deep dive into Super Mario All-Stars. In November of 1990, Nintendo released the Super Nintendo Entertainment System for both Nintendo and the world. This system was revolutionary. It displayed 16-bit graphics, which compared to Nintendo's previous console, the NES, looked literally twice as good. The system launched with Super Mario World, a very highly acclaimed Nintendo game, which definitely warranted the system as a must-have console. But that was just the problem. You see, children all across the world really wanted this game so bad and would do anything to get it. But their parents saw it a little bit differently. Imagine this. You've had your NES for over 2 years with around $700 in games invested into it. Then, Nintendo announces a new system rendering your old one obsolete. That's not a good position to put yourself in. So, Nintendo would really have to prove themselves and give us a reason why the SNES was the system to buy. Really? Instead of making another great game like Super Mario World, they decided to go out and recreate a game that they already had. Hi, I'm Nintendo. Invest in crypto. Buy NFTs. Oh, buy Super Mario All-Stars. Oh, come on! Now, when the game was released, it received very positive reviews and sold just under 13 million cartridges. The collection featured 4 games: Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Bros. 3, and Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. This is also the first time that The Lost Levels was ever released outside of Japan. If you didn't know, Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels was the original sequel to Super Mario Bros. It released in 1986 for the Famicom Disk System only in Japan. There were plans to release it over here in the United States, but it was reportedly, and I quote, too hard for American audiences. However, if you were really lucky, you'd get a copy of Super Mario World included. There isn't much of a difference between the Mario All-Stars version and the original release, other than Luigi's sprites looking a little bit different. Now let's talk about the game itself. Some things I liked about the game were the music. The music sounds so much better compared to the original NES version. My favorite music section is during the underground levels, where both the music and the sound effects echo. It's like you're down in a cave and it's so cool. Once again, the graphics are spectacular. They look so much better than the ones in the NES. Now, let's talk about some of the things that I don't like about the game. One of the things that I've noticed is whenever you jump into a brick block in Super Mario Bros. 1, you kind of jump into the block. And it kind of feels kind of mushy. Other than that, the game is actually pretty fun. No. Oh no, please, no, no! That's right, for the 25th anniversary of Super Mario Bros., Nintendo decided to re-release the SNES game for the Wii. I wonder what the game will feature. Maybe it'll have new updated graphics, better sound, or maybe it'll include Super Mario World. It doesn't, does it? It's just a re-release of the SNES game. Absolutely nothing special going on here. Well, Super Mario All-Stars might have not been the greatest game, but it was definitely a reason to buy the Super Nintendo. Well, that's all the time that we got for you guys today. Stay safe, stay warm, stay watching, and stay retro. We'll catch you guys on the next level.
Oh, hey, I'm Josiah. Welcome back to Retro Rewind, and today I'm playing Street Fighter 2 again. The thing is, I kind of wish this game had more spinal cord. Oh boy, a spinal cord and a lawsuit. Let's get this over with.
Ah yes, Mortal Kombat, the game that made us question whether our parents should have been a little stricter about what we were playing. If anything, it's known for its blood, gore, and of course those infamous fatalities. You can't talk about the 90s without mentioning the iconic console, the Sega Genesis, and you certainly can't talk about Mortal Kombat without mentioning the Sega Genesis version, which famously retained all the blood and guts. Mortal Kombat emerged in the early 90s as a challenger to the mighty Street Fighter 2. What sets it apart? Well, besides the excessive violence, it had a unique style and a killer lineup of fighters. The Sega Genesis version was a game changer for the franchise. While other home console ports like the SNES version had to tone down the violence, the Genesis version embraced it and remained true to the arcade original. Where the Genesis version had blood, the SNES version had, sweat. If anything, I think that's even more disgusting to have sweat coming off of you rather than blood. However, even if the game might have been saved from parents, it definitely wasn't saved from the United States government.
Hang on, let me make sure I read that right. Yeah, that was right. What?
Yeah, the US government saw the game as too violent along with other Sega Genesis games like Night Trap. Apparently Sega didn't quote-unquote rate these games correctly and only rated them on what they thought it should be and not what the actual rating should have been, possibly to sell a few more copies to younger children. This whole ordeal was settled with the Entertainment Software Rating Board, the ESRB. You can still see their work on the back of every single video game since this instance.
Well, Mortal Kombat is definitely one of the best games on the Sega Genesis, especially in the fighting genre. However, it definitely made parents rethink the screen time rules, especially of their day and age. Well, that's all the time that we got for you guys today. Stay safe, stay warm, stay watching, and stay retro. We'll catch you guys on the next level. Oh, hey, I'm Josiah, welcome back to Retro Rewind. Today I've been taking a look at Timon and Pumbaa's Jungle Games on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, I've definitely been taking a quick look at this game. I don't know much about it at all, but what I do know is the place that I got it at. Flashback sequence. Yeah, those were great times. Actually, they were only 15 minutes ago. Let's take a look at the Belden Village Exchange. Let's get this over with.
If you didn't already know, I'm a retro gamer who's always looking for a good deal. Besides, if you really think about it, it's not really worth it to pay $1 million for Mario 64. That's why the Belden Exchange has got you covered. The Exchange has all your favorite retro systems from the NES, SNES, N64, GameCube, Wii, Wii U, PlayStation 1, 2, 3, original Xbox, Xbox 360, as well as newer systems like the PS5, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox Series X. I've been a member at the Exchange for around 8 months now, and with my membership card I can get points whenever I buy something. Then, when I have enough points, I can get special discounts on other games. The Exchange also offers a unique trade-in system. You can bring in your old games, consoles, or accessories, and they'll give you in-store credit or cash for them. It's a fantastic way to clear out the collection or upgrade to newer games and the consoles without breaking the bank. The Exchange isn't just a store, it's a haven for gamers. The staff are fellow gamers themselves, so they understand your passion and can help you find hidden gems or recommended titles that you might have missed. If anything, the Exchange is the ultimate destination for retro and modern gamers alike. Affordable prices, a friendly staff, and a fantastic membership program make it a must-visit for any gaming enthusiast.
And that was the Belden Village Exchange. Overall, definitely my favorite video game store and overall media store in general. If anything, that's where I get all of my favorite games, especially if I want them in good, clean quality. Well, that's all the time we got for you guys today. Stay safe, stay warm, stay watching, and stay retro. We'll catch you guys on the next level. Okay, hi. I'm Josiah, welcome back to Retro Rewind, and right now I'm in a hot pursuit with the police. I don't know why. All I did was play Rad Racer on the NES. I didn't think it was a big deal, but apparently it is. It's Rad Racer on the NES. Let's just get this over with.
Ah yes, Rad Racer, the only racing game that most likely gave its players pink eye.
So far.
Developed by Square, the same folks that brought us Final Fantasy, this game wasn't just about speed. It was about speed, crashing, speed, crashing, trees, crashing, speed, Brad, you've got two car options, the Ferrari 328 or an F1 car.
Wow, so many choices.
And let's not forget the 3D glasses that were bundled in with the game. Those glasses were the height of gaming fashion in the late 80s. Rad Racer was one of the first games ever to feature 3D in home use that wasn't $300. Now let's talk about the game itself. Rad Racer had a very simple goal: race against the clock and reach the checkpoints before the time ran out. But it wasn't just about speed. You had to be Mario Andretti meets a ballerina to navigate those tight turns, dodge traffic, and not to turn your sweet ride into a scrap heap. It's all about gas, brakes, and a lot of turns. The idea of the game is very simple, yet it's so easy to find yourself spinning out of control into a pixelated oblivion. The game's difficulty? Well, let's just say it made me cry enough times to rehydrate the Sahara Desert. But that's just the charm of Rad Racer. It challenged you to become a 3D racing virtuoso, and when you finally crossed that finish line, you felt like you had conquered Mount Everest. Or, you know, Mount Nesterest. Rad Racer's definitely not the best game on the NES, but it's definitely not the worst. This is a great racing game for anybody who likes crashes and car pile-ups and anything else, making me sound like a maniac. Well, that's all the time that we got for you guys today. Stay safe, stay warm, stay watching, and stay retro. We'll catch you guys on the next level.
Oh hey, I'm Josiah, welcome back to Retro Rewind. And you know what? I am sick today. So sick in fact that I'm playing Mega Man 3 by choice and wearing sweatpants. Please, let's just get this over with. If you were a gamer in the early 90s, Mega Man 3 was the game to own. Released in 1987 for the Famicom in Japan, Rockman was one of Japan's coolest video game characters. After being brought over to America, Rockman was later renamed to Mega Man. 3 years later, in 1990, Mega Man 3 was released to critical acclaim, being given the title the best Capcom game ever. Mega Man 3 was an improvement on both Mega Man 1 and Mega Man 2 in every possible way. One of the biggest differences in Mega Man 3 wasn't even in the game, it was on the box art. This was the first Mega Man game to introduce the modern look of Mega Man. Before this, Mega Man had a small blaster and looked like a tall, skinny guy and didn't resemble his pixelated counterpart at all. Mega Man 3 also introduced a new action, the slide. By pressing down and jump, you can slide around on the ground to your heart's content. It gave the game a new style of gameplay, which definitely made the game more interesting. Mega Man 3 also introduced some of the most iconic bosses ever, like Snake Man, Magnet Man, and my personal favorite, Top Man. I mean, seriously, he's a spinning top. How intimidating can that be?
He's coming for us! Ah!
Now let's talk about Mega Man's iconic music. The soundtrack in the game is so catchy that even Dr. Wily would tap his foot to it. So, in the end, I guess Mega Man 3 is, was, and always will be an all-time classic. It's really just a great game that really shows off the capabilities of the NES. But the problem with it is, it's Mega Man 3 and I'm playing in sweatpants. I'm sorry. That's all the time we got for you guys today on Retro Rewind. Stay safe, stay warm, stay watching, and stay retro. We'll catch you guys on the next level.
Hey, I'm Josiah, welcome back to Retro Rewind, and today I'm going to be giving myself an aneurysm while playing Sonic Spinball, because like, why not? It's Sonic Spinball. It gives people aneurysms for a reason. Let's get this over with.
I'm a huge Nintendo fan, and with that, I like Nintendo products, from Nintendo games, Nintendo consoles, Nintendo Pez dispensers. But I do have a soft spot for other types of retro games, from Atari to Magnavox to Coleco to non-video game types of entertainment like movies, TV shows, and this even might surprise some people, pinball machines. And I guess this counts too. Yes, Sonic the Hedgehog, as it likes to be called. This game likes to go fast. But you see, that's just the thing. Sonic goes fast. This doesn't. This is Sonic Spinball on the Sega Genesis. I picked the game up at the exchange a while ago, and I had always wanted to talk about the game and rid the world of its mediocre existence.
Now, to be clear, I don't hate Sonic Spinball. I just can't stand its loathsome existence in our already mediocre world.
So, what do you do in the game? Well, as Sonic, your goal is to bounce from area to area, so eventually you can grab a Chaos Emerald. At least that's what I got from it.
I don't know, maybe I'm just bad at video games, or the video game is out to get me, or the evil overlords at Sega are trying to get me. I don't know, probably the third one.
There really isn't much else you can say about the game, so here's a nature documentary that I stole from the National Archives.
After the Korean War, Sonic the Hedgehog found himself haunted by the traumatic experiences he endured during the Great Conflict, leading him to contract PTSD. Sonic's once carefree demeanor was replaced by frequent bouts of anxiety, nightmares, and a heightened startle response. The high-speed adventures that were once his source of joy became triggers for distressing memories, causing Sonic to withdraw from his friends and the activities he once loved. So, on November 14th, 1993, Sonic the Hedgehog decided to commit a crime against humanity and create Sonic Spinball. What was he thinking?
Yeah, I don't know what that was all about, but that was Sonic Spinball for you. Well, that's really all I have to say about the game. It's Sonic Spinball, what more can you say? That's all the time we got for you guys today on Retro Rewind. Stay safe, stay warm, stay watching, and stay retro. We'll catch you guys on the next level. Oh, hey, I'm Josiah, welcome back to Retro Rewind, and today I've run out of things to talk about, so I went on my backlog of games and found The Adventures of Dino Riki on the NES. I didn't really want to look at this, and my parents almost threw me out because I kept talking about it and how bad it is. So, let's take a look at The Adventures of Dino Riki on the NES, and you wonder why I'm still single. Let's get this over with.
Okay, first of all, what the heck even is this game? Well, in Dino Riki, you play as, you guessed it, Dino Riki.
Shocking, I know.
Your goal is to journey through the 4 stages filled with all sorts of dangerous creatures. You start with a simple club, but along the way you can grab power-ups like speed boosts, rocks, axes, torches, and boomerangs. The game's controls are somewhat simple and responsive, which is crucial for a game like this. You'll be jumping over pits, rivers, and even battling gigantic monsters. In all, there's only about 4 levels. This makes the game very short, yet it doesn't take away from its overall quality. The average gamer can beat the game in around 1 hour, yet speedrunners have been able to beat the game in just over 20 minutes. You'll face a variety of prehistoric bosses like the T-Rex, Pteranodon, Monsterfly, and Giant Cobra. I wasn't able to get there, so here is some classical music. Now, I've only been praising this game so far, but that doesn't mean it comes without its faults. I find the game to be exceedingly difficult. The gameplay can just be so frustrating for people. Another thing I noticed is that once players complete the game, there isn't much incentive to replay it. The lack of alternate paths or multiple endings can make it less engaging for those who enjoy games with extensive replay value.
So, obviously, Dino Riki is not the greatest NES game of all time. However, it's definitely a beautiful hidden gem and really shows the capabilities of the NES and what the NES can do. Well, that's all the time that we got for you guys today on Retro Rewind. Stay safe, stay warm, stay watching, and stay retro. We'll catch you guys on the next level. Oh, hey, I'm Josiah, welcome back to Retro Rewind. You know, this is the time of year when people come around the tree and gather around and try to give gifts to one another. I guess this would also be the best time to mention that I got a gift from Santa. That's right, the jolly fat guy gives a care about me. Well, let's see what I got! Has it come to this? Is this Santa's revenge for me trying to beat Super Mario Bros. 1 blindfolded? Well, if it is, I guess it's time for me to review Link, The Faces of Evil on the Philips CDI. Let's get this over with.
Okay, how did we get to this awful point in human history? Well, I can go as far back as the first sin, but it would make a bit more sense to start in 1989. The Zelda CDI games were a result of a licensing agreement between Nintendo and Philips in the early 90s. Nintendo was exploring options to expand its reach beyond its own gaming platforms, and Philips, an electronics company, was a potential partner. They were going to partner with Sony, however, this partnership quickly fell apart, leading Sony to create its own video game console out of spite. Thus, Philips obtained the right to create original games using Nintendo characters, leading to the creation of the infamous Zelda CDI games and the 11th Commandment. Now let's talk about the first and worst of these three games, Link, The Faces of Evil. One of the biggest things that people poke at are the cutscenes. They are so unbelievably awful that the town with no name would pity it.
Give me a drink, bartender.
The visuals are just really subpar, even by the standards of its time. Character designs are awkward, and the use of full motion video for sprites results in a jarring and unappealing aesthetic. The transition from a traditional action-adventure style of Zelda series to a side-scrolling platformer with its clunky controls is one of the game's major downfalls. Combat feels tedious, with Link's movement lacking the precision and responsiveness fans had to come to expect. The gameplay is so hard to get used to, especially when you press up to jump instead of a button. It starts to make your thumb hurt and it really ruins the gaming experience. Then again, you're playing on the CDI, so you really don't care about your gaming experience. The level design is just uninspired, offering little of the exploration and the puzzle solving that define the Zelda experience. For instance, I tried to walk through a door, but it was locked. You know how I knew that? Because the giant words above the door were saying it was locked. Imagine if something like that happened in real life.
The door's locked, idiot.
At least Zelda 2 could actually make a side-scrolling style of Zelda game fun. Here it just feels like a cheap dollar store bargain bin knockoff. It's like finding a fake Santa at a mall. Awkward and disappointing.
Santa!
Hi, Phil Swift here.
Link: The Faces of Evil has an indelible mark on the Legend of Zelda franchise, but not in a positive way. Its legacy is one of disappointment, serving as a stark reminder of the perils of outsourcing beloved intellectual properties to inexperienced developers.
I think I've made it very clear that this is the absolute worst game of all time. I've never played a single game that was worse than this. Why would Santa give it to me? He gave me a York. Thank you, Santa! Well, that's all the time I got for you guys today on Retro Rewind. Stay safe, stay warm, stay watching, and stay retro. We'll catch you guys in the next level. I'm gonna go eat a York!